From Metamora Township High School in Metamora, Illinois, Clutch Sports Media is live for the first round of the IHSA 3A girls basketball playoffs, the semifinal round, we should say, of this regional tournament. And folks, this is about as good of a matchup as you could ask for in round one. The third-seeded Metamora Redbirds and the fifth-seeded Washington Panthers, two arch rivals with 44 combined wins and 9 combined losses this year, are going at it in round one. It's going to be a fun Monday night. Glad you're with us. Joey Wright alongside Matt Harrington. Starting lineups are upon us. And Matt, let's start with the combined record. 44-9, 22 wins for each side, 5 losses for Washington, 5 losses for Metamora. I mean, this is going to be, we said it last week when these two teams squared off, a high-level battle.
Absolutely. Two teams that don't like each other very much, Joey, and of course, both programs with so much history over the course of the last handful of years, and just two teams that really don't like each other, and no bigger stage than this here, playoff basketball.
It's going to be a good one. On your screen, you see the outlook of the Metamora Regional. Peoria, Notre Dame, and Dunlap have already played. That game wrapped up about 20 minutes ago. Peoria, Notre Dame with a decisive win over Dunlap. So the winner will face PND on Thursday for the regional title. And we'll see how it plays out tonight. Matt, when you look at the matchups between these two teams this season, one of them was really close right here in Metamora on January 4th. Washington won that game by a point. Last week in Washington, the Panthers won by 18 points. Metamora is a team with all the talent in the world, but they just haven't been able to put it together against the Panthers, who are being introduced right now.
Yeah, really, it was kind of a surprising amount of points that they won by in their last matchup against these Metamora Redbirds. And, of course, you mentioned just a one-point game earlier this year. And so we'll see if we get a little bit of a closer game tonight. I feel like that will be the case. Some would even argue that, of course, Metamora might be the slight favorite here tonight as well. But either way you look at it, I think we're going to have a game that really comes down to the wire in the fourth quarter. At least that's what the fans and us broadcasters hope here tonight in Metamora.
No rooting interest for us. We just want a close game.
That's
and
right.
Metamora they do have that home court advantage by virtue of being the higher seed. They'll be in their home whites. You saw the Panthers introduced in the road blacks. And the Metamora lineup set to make its introduction. The Washington lineup: Claire McDougall, Georgia Duncan, Lucy Wilson, Carly Vaughn, and Addie Kimmler. Keeping an eye on a Bradley commit in Claire McDougall, a McKendry commit in Georgia Duncan for the Panthers. And now the Metamora Redbirds making their introduction. First on the floor, Katie Lalamandir, clutch shooter for these Redbirds. Alyssa Russell now being introduced. Russell, impact player, a senior, as is Lalamandir. And there's Kayla Pasha, terrific scorer for these Redbirds, also a senior in a senior-heavy lineup. Katie Ramage is a junior, number 23, being introduced. She'll play softball at Northern Illinois in a few years' time, one of the best softball players in the area. And Brooklyn Marshall, committed to play basketball at the next level herself, a senior. 3 seniors, 1 junior for the Redbirds. They are coached by first-year head coach Kyle Wyanoff, and Washington has been coached for some time by Kim Barth. As both these teams get ready to play in their first playoff game in 2 years. No postseason last year in the IHSA, but we're back and ready to go this year. Going to be a good one, Matt.
Going to be a fun one indeed. You mentioned some of the upperclassmen on this team. Just very loaded with that top-heavy talent of seniors and juniors for the Redbirds.
Washington has a good mix of both, including, I should say, Claire McDougall. You had an R in Claire there. That's where I got crossed up. She'll play at Bradley in 2 years' time for a Braves team that's had a lot of success last couple of years. Georgia Duncan, senior for the Panthers, goes up and in, and Washington's on the board first.
Yeah, exactly what they needed to start, and good job there by Duncan to get things going.
Now Metamora trying to respond. Here's Ramage spinning off the glass. Little short on that one. Loose down low. Duncan the rebound, and the Panthers will run it. They go up, all the way up ahead to Carly Vaughn. Redbird defense did a nice job of getting back, and the Panthers offense forced to reset. Deep 2 on the way that falls from Addie Kimmler. And Addie Kimmler, you know, you talk a lot about Claire McDougall and Georgia Duncan, but Kimmler's a good scoring option for the Panthers as well.
She is indeed, and you saw it right there on that shot. Washington getting off to an early 4-0 lead here, Joey.
Here's Lalamandir for Metamora, now down to the corner, and Kayla Pasha. Pasha kicks it out, 3 on the way, a little bit short from Metamora. Russell leaving that one short. Russell gets it back, and Russell will slow it down. Now here's Marshall. Marshall driving with one hand, didn't have that one. Kimmler hauls it in, tried to hand it off to Vaughn. Kimmler got it back, and here's McDougal. McDougal tries to drive, had to take a little bit off that one. Kimmler the offensive rebound. And a carry, first turnover of the evening, favors Metamora.
Yeah, that was, thought I saw that right away too, and of course some of the Washington fans calling for that one right away, but they get the call right and Metamora takes over.
Host Redbirds looking for their first points. Ramage with a free throw that falls right on cue, 2-point game.
Yeah, you talked about Ramage's athletic abilities and heck of a basketball player here as well.
As we said, committed to play softball at Northern Illinois, Division I softball talent, but a terrific basketball talent as well. Impact player for these Redbirds.
She's headed for some action in the MAC conference.
That's right, good conference in every sport. Pass intercepted, was intended for Kimmler. Redbirds get out and run it. Shot blocked by Duncan. Ramage got it back, went up and drew contact. And it's Claire McDougal that will be called on the foul. Now that's interesting, Matt, because last week when these teams squared off, Claire McDougal ran into foul trouble, picked up 4 fouls. Didn't foul out, but you had to be conservative late in the game.
Yeah, that's going to be something to keep an eye on here today as well. And, you know, anytime these teams meet like this, the emotions, the intensity gets a little bit higher, and you tend to get a little bit more physical on the defensive side of things. We'll keep an eye on that certainly as we go down the stretch.
We will. Second free throw for Ramage on the way. A silent gem. She got it to go. And I should correct myself, Matt. Unfortunately, I was mistaken. That foul was not on McDougal, but rather Lucy Wilson. But we'll see how the foul situation transpires. Just one foul here as we work the opening the opening 2:40 as Washington looking good offensively here in the early stages. Big 3 falls that time.
That was Carly Vaughn on the 3 there.
Pass back out was intended for Russell, incomplete. And the Panthers will look to build on their momentum early on. If you're just joining us, IHSA 3A regional semifinal matchup. Good one between Washington and Metamora, 2 arch rivals. They've played some good ones this season on both sides of the ball, girls and boys. McDougal driving for Washington, and she will go to the free throw line to try and make this a straight 2-possession game. 6-point lead for the Panthers if she hits these.
That's a good job by McDougal to get to the basket, using her size to her advantage there. Now has an opportunity to try and cash in here on some free throws.
First on the way from McDougal off the mark, and there's that home court advantage for Metamora. When Katie Ramage took her 2 free throws a moment ago, it was silent in this place. The Metamora student section making it hard on McDougal. 1 of 2 at the line.
Well, some of the Washington students, Joey, starting to fill in here now too. If you're a Washington fan, you're going to hope, of course, that they start to get a little bit more vocal as well.
Orange Crush, a great student section for the Panthers. They make an impact at home or on the road. Marshall off on the 2. Washington tries to run it. Vaughn drives, kicks, 3 on the way from Duncan. Falls. Georgia Duncan for 3. And the Washington offense forcing Metamora to call a timeout early. Kyle Wyanoff wants to talk things over. It'll be a 30-second timeout.
Yeah, you can't let Georgia Duncan get wide open like that, because she will make you pay. And especially in a playoff game like this where these stakes are as high as they're going to get all season, just can't have that happen, and makes them pay. 11-3 the score here in the early going.
And it favors Washington. If you're just joining us, the Panthers building an 8-point lead on the strength of 5 points from Georgia Duncan, 3 points from Carly Vaughn. Addie Kimmler has 2 points, and Claire McDougal has a free throw for the Panthers. The only player to score for Metamora, Katie Ramage, by virtue of a bucket and a free throw. And Ramage gets it here for Metamora. Now here's Marshall. Lalamandir down low to Pesha. Pesha with a little contact. No foul was called, Matt, but a tough finish either way.
Very good indeed. Now we'll see if Washington responds.
McDougal pushes in transition, goes to Kimler, and Kimler traveled, and this is where the momentum feels like it might be starting to shift.
Yeah, absolutely, Joey. And again, 11-3 is a big deficit for being such early in the game, and now Metamora an opportunity to convert.
Lalamandir over to Russell. And now to the corner, 3 on the way. Falls for Alyssa Russell. Was all over the floor on that possession, and it's a 3-point game. A good one brewing here early as McDougal will try and reset the Washington offense.
Talk about how quickly that turned, though. Now we got a one-possession game.
Here's Vaughn slowing it down, 23 on 23. She's guarded by Ramage, forced to slow it down, kick it out. That pass intercepted by Pesha. And that'll be a tie-up that'll take us to the mask timeout. Arrow will favor Metamora. And that will take us to our mask timeout. The momentum shifting here in the early stages. Washington was up 11-3, but it's a 3-point game with 3:25 to play. Quick break after a word from Uftring.
If you think you'll never find the car or truck you really want, think again. We'll find it so you can drive it at every Uftring Auto Group dealer. And this month, your tax refund is your down payment. It's easy to find it and drive it at every Uftring Auto Group dealer.
Welcome back to Metamora. Tonight's coverage is brought to you by Jake Weston State Farm in Washington, Illinois. For all your insurance needs, visit JakeWestonInsurance.com or call 309-444-4441, Jake Weston State Farm in Washington. And by Kep's Sports Bar and Grill in Washington. Great atmosphere, superb food at 313 Muller Road in Washington, or call the number on your screen. Want to thank Kep's for joining us tonight and throughout the season. Jake Weston as well, and Jake Weston's number and website at the bottom of your screen all evening long. Metamora could tie it up with a 3. Joey Wright and Matt Harrington in with you. Larry Larson, John Michael, the rest of our crew, and Josh Schwab back in our Peoria studio. But, Matt, a costly turnover there for the Redbirds.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that mass timeout came at about the most perfect time for Washington here early in this first quarter. They needed something to slow the game down just a little bit.
If you're new to IHSA basketball this season, that mass timeout coming at the first dead ball under 4 minutes in every quarter.
Not really seeing a whole lot of masks, though, here tonight, Joey, especially on the court. More like a media timeout.
It does function as a media timeout. Our college basketball fans will recognize that. Pass down low, turned over, and here's Metamora again. Izzy Vandeschraff fresh into the game. To Kayla Pesha. Vandeschraff gets it back. 3 on the way. Off the back attachment. Rebound caroms to Russell. And Lalamandir finds Pesha. And Pesha will reset. Pops it out to Russell. She hit a 3 earlier. Lalamandir now calls out the offense. Was looking for Vandeschraff, but it's intercepted. And McDougal runs the point here for Washington. Loses it out of bounds. But it'll stay with Washington.
We see Washington starting to push the pace a little bit here on offense. And now inbounds pass coming up. But again, 11-8 here, Joey. For those just joining us, was 11-3, 5 unanswered right now from these Redbirds.
2 subs come in, the inverse of each other. Ramage number 23 for Metamora, and Kimler number 32 for Washington. Kimler now has it. Kimler probably the third scoring option on this Panthers side behind McDougal and Duncan. Metamora has a couple of options offensively. We've seen Katie Ramage look good today, but Kayla Pesha also a terrific scorer. Duncan for Washington in trouble, lobs it up to McDougal, and it was tipped out of bounds by Pesha.
Really good defense there by Metamora. Arms are up all the way across the court, and that's exactly what you want to see for if you're a Redbirds fan, and now got to defend this inbounds pass here as well.
Lane Jackson into the game for Metamora. McDougal drives on Pesha, goes up and under, and scores, and Claire McDougal now up to 3 points, heating up, and the Panthers lead by 2 scores. Vandeschraff now for the Redbirds to Lane Jackson. Ramage was looking for Russell. Russell did a nice job of keeping that in. Back to Pesha. Pesha down to the corner, and Russell guarded by Carly Vaughn. Kicked back to Jackson, and now Van de Schraff in the corner. Driving on Maddie McGinnis, who recently came in for the Panthers. Russell gets the pass on a tip, and a foul called there on Vaughn.
Good ball movement again by Metamora, taking their time, not rushing their shots. Of course, no shot clock here in high school, so have the opportunity to get that shot that you're looking for.
No shot clock yet, that is. I think Larry Larson and Jonathan Michael were talking
That's right.
about that last game. It's on the way.
It is. Seems like a lot of states are moving that direction that have not had the shot clock before.
A few have it. Indeed. Here's Lalamandir. Adds a little element of excitement to the game. Van de Schraff kicks it out to Lalamandir. She tries to drive. Pesha goes off the glass and scores. Both teams trading buckets here after Washington had the early momentum.
Pesha just found a way to sneak in there between a couple of defenders, and nice bucket there.
Two teams that really play as a unit. High-level fundamental basketball on display on both of these benches. Kim Barth and Kyle Wyanoff have done terrific jobs this year. It's a treat that we get this matchup in the first round, or I should say the first game for these sides in the postseason. McDougal holding on to it here. 15 seconds left in the first quarter. Pesha guards. 10 seconds for McDougal. Sets the offense into motion, loses it, gets it back, kicks it to Maddie McGinnis. Down low to Addison Kimmler. And a Metamora foul. Washington can run an out-of-bounds play here with 5 seconds left.
I believe that one was on Lane Jackson, just a little bit too aggressive there defensively. And this could be a big chance right here.
Lalamandir gets in, tips the pass out of bounds. That'll go off of Lalamandir and Metamora. And Georgia Duncan will inbound for the Panthers with, call it a second and a half left. See if the Panthers can run anything. They go to McDougal, gets the shot up, blocked by Ramage. And that's how the first quarter will end. Ramage steps up and blocks Claire McDougal, no easy task. Who's to say if that would have gone in, but Ramage took all the doubt out of that question.
Yeah, what a way to end this first quarter. Exciting defensive effort, and saw Lalamandir wanting a foul called on that play right before that last shot opportunity. There was none, and so we end with a 13-10 lead for the Panthers.
Good one in the early stages. Take a quick break to thank our sponsors tonight. Jake Weston State Farm in Washington on board this evening. For all your insurance needs, give them a call at 309-444-4441 or visit JakeWestonInsurance.com. His office just outside of the square in Washington, right behind Washington Community High School, and by Kep's Sports Bar and Grill in Washington as well, 313 Muller Road, or call the number on your screen. Family-oriented atmosphere, superb food as well. I want to thank Kep's for coming on board tonight and throughout the season. Jake Weston as well. 13-10 Washington, second quarter upon us. Matt, Washington started this game on an 11-3 run, but since then it's gone both ways. Metamora with a little burst of scoring, and it's evened out since.
Yeah, I think, Joey, the rest of the way, that's how it's probably going to be. You know, you always say basketball is a game of runs, and sure we'll see that as well, but I don't anticipate this game getting out of hand for either team really throughout the course of this game.
Terrific semifinal matchup in the regional round of the IHSA postseason. 22 wins for each of these teams in the regular season. Duncan wants a free throw, leaves it short, and Pesha brings in the rebound.
And Pesha's just so good on both sides of the ball, especially rebounding like we see right there.
Here's Metamora down low. Brooklyn Marshall didn't have it, and Pesha hits the floor along with, I believe that's Kimmler, and it is Addie Kimmler down there, and that'll be another jump ball. I think that's the second or the third we've seen tonight.
Yeah, I think you're right, Joey. I believe that is the third one. Just getting started here in the second quarter as well.
Alyssa Russell inbounds to Pesha. Pesha guarded by McDougal, kicks it out. 3 on the way from Russell, short. Rebounded by Pesha, and Pesha did a nice job of shoveling that out to Lalamandir. Now Lalamandir to the corner and Pesha. It's a matchup we'll watch all evening long. We've had fun watching it in the first 9 minutes. Pesha and McDougal. Lalamandir, and now the Redbirds swinging around. Marshall tries to go to work down low. Rebound hauled in by Vaughn, and Vaughn will bring it up for Washington. Vaughn tries to drive and will go to the free throw line for her trouble. Haven't called Carly Vaughn's name a ton tonight. We have called her name, but she has 3 points for the, or no, pardon me. Has yet to find the scoreboard for Washington, but showing some aggression there. McDougal driving, bank not open. Kimler the rebound, she cleans it up.
Great play by Kimler, just waiting for that ball to fall. Excellent job on the finish.
Quick 3 for Metamora to respond. Just a touch too much on that one, but a strong finish from Kayla Pesha, correcting the Alyssa Russell miss, and Pesha off to a strong start. Has 6 points now for Metamora. Duncan up top to Carly Vaughn. 23 on 23. That's been another matchup we've zeroed in on tonight. Vaughn and Ramage. And McDougal tries to drive. Nice pass in transition, not quite in transition, but rather to Kimler, who was cutting to the basket, and Kimler continues to step up for the Panthers tonight.
Yeah, she's been really strong offensively, finding a way to get to the places she needs to be.
Lalamandir at the free throw line. Behind her to Pesha. Pesha goes all the way back to Marshall, and Ramage tries to drive. Didn't have the baseline there. Floater from Lalamandir. Metamora has been a little too strong on these shots. Off the back attachment tonight.
Yeah, I like that idea, though, by Lalamandir to at least float that one up, get an attempt off. We'll see if Metamora can adjust defensively.
Deep 3 from Georgia Duncan. Cleaned up by Claire McDougal. Neither had it. By contrast, Duncan left that just a little bit short. Duncan didn't have the putback. Foul called. Alyssa Russell went up strong and drew some contact from Lucy Wilson.
This will be her first trip to the line here, and had that three-pointer back in the first quarter.
That three-pointer coming at a pretty important time in the first quarter for Metamora, as they were trying to cut into the Panthers' early lead. Now 4 points for Russell. And a couple of subs coming in. Maddie McGinnis back in for the Panthers. Izzy Vanda Schraff and Lane Jackson in for Metamora. I think Vanda Schraff will come in for Russell. She came in a little early. She's gone back to the scorer's table, so on a make, she will come in for Russell. Or on the dead ball, she'll come in for Russell. Russell leaves that off the rim, but now departs for Vanda Schraff.
One thing, Joey, I just noticed while I was looking up at the scoreboard here, Lucy Wilson already with 3 fouls for Washington. That could certainly be a problem as we go along in this game, so we'll see how Kim Barth manages her minutes here down the course of this game.
And Kim Barth had to do a lot of that last week when these two teams met up. Washington winning rather decisively by almost 20 points. It was Claire McDougal in foul trouble in Washington a week ago. Lucy Wilson, key player for these Panthers, has been in the starting lineup some this season. Duncan has an open path to the basket and makes good on it. But Kim Barth, no stranger to managing that lineup a little bit. Claire McDougal didn't play most of that game last week. Yeah, well, or, probably was on the bench for, I don't know the exact breakdown of the minutes and all that, but didn't play for a good chunk of the game, and Washington was still able to win easy.
That's a good sign, certainly, moving forward, especially in a rivalry game like this. And season's on the line. Doesn't really get much bigger than that.
It's win or go home tonight. And as we've alluded to, Washington winning both of the regular season meetings between these teams. Lane Jackson wanted the 3, will pass it up. Metamora looking to use home court advantage to its advantage tonight. Lane Jackson for 2.
Jackson, you mentioned passing up that 3. She's got a much better look there, and she'll take the 2 points.
Using that basketball IQ as a foul ball goes a couple rows up into the stands. Nice snag by a fan. And Metamora has a chance to cut it to a 1-possession game. Mask timeout coming at the next dead ball, and we'll see what the Metamora offense can do here. Boy, this home crowd would love it if the Redbirds could find the twine here. Down low, Vandeschraff rolls it in, and it is a 2-point game. Slimmest the margin has been in a while. And McDougal will throw it away. A turnover, just wasn't on the same page as Carly Vaughn, it looked like. And that'll take us to our mask timeout.
Yeah, just a miscommunication there from Washington. And once again, mask timeout coming when they needed to. So we'll see how they respond out of the break.
What a game it is in the early stages. Washington up by 2. We'll take a quick break for a word from Uftring.
We'll find it so you can drive it at every Uftring Auto Group dealer. New inventory is in stock, inbound, and arriving every day. The pipeline is loaded with incoming inventory at every Uftring location. Hundreds of customers have reserved theirs, and so can you at every Uftring Auto Group dealer.
Welcome back to Metamora, 19-17. Our score, Washington with the advantage. Tonight's coverage is brought to you by Kep's Sports Bar and Grill in Washington. Great atmosphere, superb food. A family-oriented establishment is Kep's Sports Bar and Grill. Visit 313 Muller Road in Washington or call the number on your screen today. And for all your insurance needs, Jake Weston in Washington. He's the guy to talk to. Give him a call at 309-444-4441 or visit JakeWestonInsurance.com. Matt, I've called a lot of phone numbers in my day. Don't know if I've ever called one with more 4s than Jake Weston's does.
Yes, I agree with you. I don't know if you remember this, Joey. There used to be a Pizza Hut commercial back in the day, and I think it was a bunch of 8s there as well. But that's the first thing I thought of when I saw that Jake Weston phone number.
Easy to remember, a bunch of 4s and a 1 at the end after a 309 area code. Glad Jake Weston's on board tonight. He's been a big supporter of Clutch Sports Media throughout the past seasons past, I should say. Metamora looking to potentially take a lead here with a 3. It's on the way and a little bit short. From our line on it, it looked good, but a little short off the rim from Ramage. Addie Kimler gets the pass in the corner. Kimler in trouble, good defense from Jackson, and that pass tipped out of bounds by Ramage. Great hustle play, and it'll force the Panthers to inbound from right in front of the Metamora bench.
Well, Kimler was just getting absolutely hounded by the Metamora student section down there, and hey, that's what you got to do if you got the home court advantage like you've been mentioning, Joey.
Home crowd has been pretty good for Metamora here in the early stages. Here's Duncan to Carly Vaughn. Carly Vaughn with 3 points for the Panthers thus far, trying to drive and add to that total, but loses it. And Pescia gets out and runs versus Georgia Duncan. Pescia wins the battle, and this game's tied at 19.
Great speed there from Pescia. Not rushing it, but doing enough to get the basket up for the points, and she's been really one of Metamora's best players all year long, and you're seeing it so far here tonight.
It's the Bradley commit in Claire McDougal finding Carly Vaughn. Vaughn with a pass to Maddie McGinnis. McGinnis was one of the first off the bench for Washington in this one, as she has been this season. Good in that role. Off the back attachment, Kimler had a little too much power on that one. Leleman-Deer drives, kicks to Ramage. 3 fell, but the offensive foul away from the shot, and that'll wave the shot off. Ramage has been good from beyond the arc, but unfortunately for the Redbirds, that won't count.
Yeah, it's a tough break for them, and you mentioned the off-ball foul, and so there goes a 3-point lead, and now we're back to even here at 19 apiece. 2:10 to go in this first half, and this has lived up to the hype so far, Joey.
It certainly has. Great battle in the opening game for these teams. The IHSA regional round. Winner advances to the regional final on Thursday. They'll play Peoria Notre Dame. Irish looked really good earlier tonight in a big win against Dunlap.
It's one of the reasons why they're one of the top-ranked teams in the state this year.
Irish are high in the poll, and Metamora and Washington have been in that AP top 10 this year, kind of towards the back half of the poll, the receiving votes area, but these two teams held in very high regard by AP voters around the state, local media, and beyond. Kimler gets blocked by Pesha, and Pesha will run the offense for Metamora. Finds Russell. Russell drives. Russell goes up and doesn't have it. Loose ball tapped around. Somehow finds the hands of Claire McDougal. McDougal goes back behind her, and now the Panthers swing it along the perimeter. McGinnis guarded by Vandeschraff. Kimler for two. Mid-range doesn't fall. And a foul on the rebound. That'll go against Lucy Wilson. And that'll be Wilson's fourth foul.
Yeah, that's extremely concerning, Joey. We're not even out of this first half yet with 4 fouls. So going to have to be extremely careful here down the stretch is Lucy Wilson.
Bird's Nest is loving this one. There you get a look at the Metamora student section. They've come out in droves tonight. Washington has traveled well, but it's Metamora with the advantage, I would say, in terms of student representation here tonight. See if their Redbirds can take the lead. Pesha doesn't have that one. Rebound brought in by McGinnis. Brought ahead to Vaughn. Vaughn drives. Can't put the Panthers back ahead. Maddie McGinnis can't either. Rebound brought in by Vandeschraff. Under 30 seconds left. Vandeschraff's not slowing it down. Pesha might. Kicks it out to Ramage. 20 seconds left. Ramage scores. Redbirds lead for the first time tonight.
How about that finish right there? Going all sorts of places.
See if Washington can beat the first half buzzer. Katie Ramage had a big block to end the first quarter. Vaughn drives on Ramage, kicks it out to McGinnis. Her three on the way, falls, and Washington will lead at the half.
Well, how about that for your first points of the game? To get your team the lead back in a 1-point lead. What a shot from Maddie McGinnis. And my goodness, Joy, what a first half we've had here in Metamora. These two rivals. Like I said, we kind of figured this is how it was going to be back and forth all game long. And the first half certainly living up to that part.
This has been a terrific ball game. Washington up by 1 point going into the halftime break. And before we break for halftime, tonight's coverage brought to you by Jake Weston State Farm Insurance in Washington. For all your insurance needs, give Jake a call. Number on your screen, or visit his website, JakeWestonInsurance.com. And by Kep's Sports Bar and Grill in Washington. Great atmosphere, superb food. 313 Muller Road in Washington. Number on your screen as well. Always like stopping in to grab a bite at Kep's. And you'll enjoy it too. Visit Kep's in Washington. 22-21 Washington at the half. And Matt, I've got to say before we break for the half, you know, some have said this is a tough game for both sides in the first round of the playoffs because both these teams have ambitions of making a deep run. I got to say, no matter who you're rooting for, whether it's Washington or Metamora, these are two teams that should be proud of the season they've had. And we've got 16 minutes left in one of these teams' seasons. This is going to be a terrific second half.
Absolutely, Joey. And I think one of the things we kind of touched on is it's a shame this meeting is happening so early in the postseason this year compared to later on where you'd think the stakes would be even higher than they are right now. But again, we've got such talent on the floor right now. We've got Division I talent out there. 1-point game of the half. This is the place to be. ClutchSportsIL.com.
These two teams are a combined 44-9 this season. 22 wins apiece. 3 seed versus 5 seed. Don't go anywhere. We're going to break for the second half. You'll have the countdown for the third quarter top left of your screen. Stick with us. Second half's upon us on ClutchSportsIL.com. Welcome back to Metamora, where Washington has a 1-point advantage going into the third quarter. IHSA semifinal matchup here in the regional round. Joey Wright and Matt Harrington in with you. Larry Larson and Jonathan Michael, Josh Schwam, the rest of our crew. And Matt, we've talked a lot in this one about this being a terrific first-round matchup. You know, 44-9, the combined record between these two teams. Played each other in 2 good games in the regular season, but this is part of just an overall, they maybe call it the sectional of death, because there are so many great matchups in the first couple of rounds of the playoffs that are really going to determine the road to Redbird Arena in the IHSA state tournament. Winner of this game is going to play Peoria Notre Dame for the regional title on Friday. You go over and look at the Geneseo regional. You've got a terrific Geneseo team that drew the #1 seed in this subsectional. Maple Leafs, #1 team in the state for much of the season. Peoria, the #1 seed over in the other subsectional. That'll run through Peoria High School this week. Morton was a 4 seed in that subsectional, so just a lot of high-level matchups in the early stages of the playoffs. Georgia Duncan short on that too, and Metamora can retake the lead here on its first possession of the third quarter.
Yeah, going to be a fun one down the stretch. And you mentioned Peoria Regional. Peoria, of course, one of the better teams in the area this year, and going to be fun to see how they do in that regional as well, which, of course, maybe we can get a score update on that one. They started their game tonight at 6 o'clock. So we'll get Larry Larson on that one for us.
See if we can hunt one down. In the bigger picture, P&D, who's going to play for the regional title against the winner of this game on Friday, has just 3 losses this season against 22 wins, 2 of those coming against Peoria High School, to give you some context as to how the Lions have fared this season. Addie Kimmler spinning and not quite scoring for Washington. And Metamora with Kayla Pasha trying to haul in the regional title with a couple wins. Pasha doesn't have it there. McDougal for Washington, spinning, stepping back with one hand, doesn't get the roll. Rim's not kind to either side here to start the third quarter. Pasha kicks it out. Alyssa Russell doesn't take the 3, instead opts for the 2, and again doesn't get the roll. That time, taking the lid off the basket is Brooklyn Marshall.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Joey. Seemed like there was a lid on the basket to start the second half, but finally we get some points.
Both these teams creating opportunities. Brooklyn Marshall the first to capitalize for Metamora. Here's Addie Kimmler, top of the key and down to Georgia Duncan. Duncan, the McKendree commit. Step back 3 from McGinnis doesn't fall. Rebound brought in by Claire McDougal. McDougal will drive and scores. Claire McDougal starts the second half scoring for Washington. 7 points now for the Bradley commit. Or rather 5 points for McDougal. Ramage doesn't have it. Rebound brought in by Kimmler. And McDougal will press ahead.
Like the idea, though, there from Ramage, spinning to try and get the inside lane. Unfortunately, though, for her, it didn't work out.
Duncan now goes to McDougal. That brief confusion. Duncan has 7 points for Washington. Lalamandir drives, flips it to Ramage. Hard contact down low, and 2 free throws coming for Ramage.
Good foul, though, by Carly Vaughn. Of course, that looked like it was going to be an easy 2 anyway. And you see her talking to Ramage saying, hey, my bad on that one, but going to make her earn her free throws here, though.
Ramage has been at the line a couple of times tonight. First free throw does not fall for the junior. Ramage with 5 points tonight.
And already, though, that foul working out in favor of Washington would have been an easy 2, and now just the possibility of the 1 here as they do pick up that 1.
And now 6 points for Ramage, second on the Redbirds at the present moment. Kayla Pasha, rather, has 8 points. Duncan looking and finding Vaughn. Panthers looking to penetrate. McDougal goes over to Duncan. Duncan guarded by Alyssa Russell. And McGinnis with a handoff to Vaughn. Vaughn in a little bit of trouble. Tries to drive anyways. And Ramage will emerge with the rebound. Chugs ahead. Contact, but she scores. No call, but Ramage finishes. Tough finish, and she has 8.
She really wanted to draw that foul there, but didn't need it as she gets the bucket. And back to a 2-point lead here for Metamora.
Here's McGinnis, more contact. Loose down low, Duncan goes up and doesn't get the roll. It went out of bounds. It'll stay with Washington.
Whew, they got lucky there on that one, and it's one you felt Washington was going to find a way to put in the basket, but still keep possession here. And in games like this where you're teetering back and forth, these little possessions can be so important down the stretch.
McGinnis gets the inbound, finds Duncan. Duncan tries to drive, slowed it down, sped it back up, got to the rack, and the Panthers tie it up at 26. Metamora's not slowing down. Pesha throws one up. Kimler the rebound, and Kimler will chug ahead. Pass off the hand of McGinnis, and she can't keep it on the right side of the timeline. A turnover.
Yeah, she was tiptoeing the half-court line there, and unfortunate break for the Panthers.
Lalamandir will bring it ahead here. Here's Russell. Russell flips it to Izzy Vandeschraff back into the game for Metamora, out of bounds. Washington will take over possession. Matt, I'll leave the analysis to you, but I've got to say I like how the officials are calling this one. Terrific officiating crew as you find in the postseason, and not a lot of fouls. We've only seen one foul for the entirety here of the third quarter.
Yeah, I agree. They're letting them play, and I think especially in a postseason game like this, that's especially important.
Lalamandir gets out in front of McDougal, but McDougal swung the arm around. Metamora and Katie Ramage not deterred. Ramage has 10, and the Redbirds have a 2-point lead. Oh, and Matt Washington's done that a couple of times tonight. That time it's Carly Vaughn, not quite on the same page as Claire McDougal. Takes us to the mask timeout. And Washington's going to try to limit those turnovers moving forward. Take a quick break for this word from Uftring. 2-point game, 3:38 to play in the third.
If you think you'll never find the car or truck you really want, think again. We'll find it at every Uftring location. New inventory is in stock and arriving every day. Plus, lock in your record low interest rate and get more for your trade. It's easy to find it and drive it at every Uftring Auto Group dealer.
Welcome back to Metamora. Tonight's coverage is brought to you by Jake Weston State Farm in Washington, Illinois. For all your insurance needs, call Jake Weston at 309-444-4441 or visit JakeWestonInsurance.com. And by Kep's Sports Bar and Grill in Washington. Great atmosphere and superb food. Sounds pretty good to me. 313 Muller Road in Washington, or call the number on your screen today. Here you get a look at the boys basketball standings in the Mid-Illini Conference. Metamora and Washington right up alongside each other. Morton's in that conversation as well. Matt, these are two schools that love to hate each other. They've played some good ones. I think I used that same line earlier in the broadcast, but it's true on both sides of the ball. The boys had an instant classic and a really good one last week and an instant classic in Washington earlier this season. Jake Stewart winning that one on a last-second three for the Panthers. The Panthers have won both of the regular season games on the girls' side, but one of those, the game in Metamora, was a one-point game, 33-32.
Yeah, any sport between these two is fun. We've had the opportunity to call volleyball, football, basketball, all sorts of rivalry games between these two schools. Always fun to see them match up against each other.
In their third meeting of the year tonight. Matt, do you put any stock into the old adage, hard to beat a team 3 times? Doesn't look like Metamora does. They're up by 5.
Yeah, that's the biggest lead they've had all night, Joey. A chance for them to expand. Need a good defensive possession here, though, for Metamora to keep that trend going in the right direction.
Kimler steps back and scores, and Washington answers. It's been the theme of this one if you're just joining us. Both teams trading baskets. Tit for tat, both of these teams playing at a high level. Lalamandir, one step in trouble, finds Russell. And Russell with the handoff to Lalamandir. Lalamandir the corner, and Brooklyn Marshall. Marshall Tough assignment there from Kimler. Not a lot Kimler could do. Brooklyn Marshall makes it look easy in the low post.
Now Marshall had all the time in the world there. Could have shot the 3 ball, instead decided to take the easy route, and pays off for 2 points.
To a 5-point Metamora lead. Here's Duncan. Floater falls. Duncan.
How about the assist from Claire McDougall as well? Kind of off balance on the pass, but still was able to make it work out.
Double digits for Duncan, up to 11 points. Ramage spinning on Duncan, finding Marshall. Marshall with a little contact, doesn't have it. Lalamandir gets the rebound and finds Ramage. Ramage kicks to the corner, 3 from Vandeschraff, way too strong. Fell right into the lap of Kimler. Kimler pushes ahead to Vaughn, and they'll say that was last touched by Metamora and Alyssa Russell.
Kayla Pesha checking back in here for Metamora. That's a player they're going to want out on the floor for the Redbirds here down the stretch of this game. Minute 35 remaining here in the third quarter. This has been a fun one, Joey.
And notably, out goes Ramage. Free throw falls for Kimler. Addie Kimler putting together a nice outing in this one. Up to 10 points now, the second Panther to find double digits. Duncan has 11.
Yeah, those two have been carrying the scoring load here for the Panthers in this one, about 2/3 of their points.
Leading scorer for Metamora right now is Pesha with 8. 7 points from Alyssa Russell. She's had a nice evening, and Russell has it now top of the key. To Pesha, right on cue. Redbirds 2 leading scorers on the floor. A little too much power on that one from Lalamandir. And Washington brings it ahead. Lucy Wilson up to Carly Vaughn. Lucy Wilson playing with 4 fouls right now for Washington. 3 on the way from McDougall off the glass.
Banks open late on Valentine's Day, Joey.
She's up to 8 points. And McDougall puts the Panthers back up by 2. Now here's Marshall. Metamora slowing it down. 20 seconds left here in the third quarter. Do you think they hold for the final shot here?
I would think so, yes. Unless they get a wide open lane, I would expect them to hold it.
Lalamandir over to Pesha. And Pesha to Russell. Russell now to Vandeschraff. Lalamandir will drive. Pops it back out. Mid-ranger on the way. Falls for Marshall. And that's how the third quarter ends. All knotted up at 35 points.
Man, what a game this has been, Joey. Been a one possession for a lot of it. 5 points, I think, is the biggest lead we've had on either side, but this is shaping up to be a game that comes down potentially to the final possession here in Metamora.
That's the second buzzer beater we've seen, and that's the second lead-altering buzzer beater we've seen today. More on that in a moment. First, we've got to let you know that tonight's coverage is brought to you by Jake Weston State Farm in Washington. Number on your screen or the website as well, JakeWestonInsurance.com for all of your insurance needs in Washington. Jake Weston is the guy. And by Kep's Sports Bar and Grill in Washington. Great atmosphere, superb food, a family-oriented establishment at 313 Muller Road in Washington. Or give Kep's a call, 309-444-1974. As I mentioned, Matt, that's the second lead-altering buzzer beater we've seen tonight. Washington went ahead by 1 at the halftime buzzer, and then Metamora tying it up here at the third quarter buzzer. So I'm with you. I think this one could easily come down to the last possession if we keep going like this.
Yeah, certainly, and one of the things we talked about earlier, Joey, was the officials letting them play. We've only had 1 foul called here in this second half, if I'm not mistaken, and that's certainly been a big factor. We saw a lot of fouls in our earlier game between Notre Dame and Dunlap, but not the case here in this one.
These two games polar opposites of each other. P&D winning easily in our first contest to advance to the regional final. And we don't know who they're going to play because these two teams are playing at such a high level as Katie Ramage demonstrates.
Yeah, well done there by Ramage. Just the start that the Redbirds needed here in this fourth and final quarter.
37-35. Kimler to McDougall. McDougall guarded by Marshall. McDougall drives. And a foul called. Haven't had to say that a lot here in the second half. We'll See if they call that on the floor. It looks
They
like
did,
they will, yep.
Looks like McDougal was ready to go to the line, but not going to be the case.
Instead, the Panthers inbound. See if they go back her way. She's in the post guarded by Marshall. Forced to retreat to the perimeter. Marshall stays with the assignment and forces a tie-up.
Excellent job there by Brooklyn Marshall, and looks like the ball's going to stick with Washington on the possession arrow, but definitely a heads-up play there by Brooklyn Marshall.
Could be big, though. Next one will favor Metamora. Duncan with a bullet pass down low to McDougal, and McDougal ties us up at 37.
Don't want to let her get open down low like that, and that's exactly what happened.
No official stats up here, Matt, but I'd like to know how many lead changes we've had and how many we will continue to have. Metamora back to the point. Duncan ahead for Washington. And now McDougal. It's a tough assignment for Brooklyn Marshall. Marshall has been on top of it tonight. McDougal with 10 points. But again, Marshall making it tough. See who wins the battle this time. One-on-one. McDougal drives and scores. That battle won by McDougal.
Well, you talked about it, Joey, one-on-one, and that's where elite players come in and find the ability to score points in a clutch situation like that. Well done.
Marshall on the offensive end for Metamora was looking for Russell. Turnover. Kimmler comes out of there with it for Washington. And Wilson will slow it down. Wilson has done a good job, Matt, of playing with 4 fouls. Rather 3 fouls for the Panthers, but picked up those 3 fouls early. McDougal doesn't have it down low, and the rebound to Marshall. Lalamandir ahead for Metamora. Lalamandir now fouled by Wilson, and there's going to be foul number 4.
Yeah, referee was right there to make that call, and I don't think Wilson agrees with that one necessarily, but that, again, is going to be a tough one, and she'll come out of the game here down the stretch. 5:41, got to be very careful here if you're Lucy Wilson. Looks like she'll be replaced by McGinnis. Had that big 3, which I believe was that first buzzer beater that we had in this game.
It was. She beat the halftime buzzer to put the Panthers ahead at the time, 22-21. Lalamandir with 2 misses at the free throw line. Pesha couldn't make up for the misses. And McDougal will set up the Washington offense. Finds Addie Kimmler. Kimmler spins. Pesha guards. Kimmler steps back. Had to take a little off of that shot as a result. And Metamora could retake the lead. Pesha guarded by McDougal. Now it's Marshall. Marshall to Russell. Hit a big 3 earlier, and another one there. Metamora leads by 3, and a timeout called.
Boy, that thing had some arc to it. Would have found a way to go in, and a big bucket there from Russell, up to double figures now with 10 points.
Washington, or rather no, Metamora took that timeout, and that's what I thought happened. I wanted to make sure I didn't speak early, but trying to lock that momentum in with 5:10 to play. And if Metamora has needed a big 3 tonight, they've gone to Alyssa Russell.
Yeah, they sure have. She has been really good from behind the arc, and beyond the arc rather, and 3 players for Washington in double figures. We've got, let's see here, Claire McDougal with 12 points, Georgia Duncan with 11, and of course, Addie Kimmler as well with 10 points. Those are your scoring leaders for the Panthers. And then meanwhile, for the Redbirds, Alyssa Russell up to double figures, as I just mentioned, after that one with 10 points. And then, of course, a couple more players. Looks like Katie Ramage also has 12 points for the Redbirds so far in this one. So a lot of players stepping up in a big-time moment in a situation like this, Joey.
It maybe took a minute for these offenses to get going, Matt. The first half ended, 22-21. Some scoring, but nothing that would make you say it's a shootout. But in the second half, the percentages have gone up. The efficiency is there every time down the floor. We're expecting to see some points now as Duncan sets it up for Carly Vaughn. Vaughn goes over to Claire McDougal. And McGinnis passes up a 3. Carly Vaughn will not. Her 3 short. And the rebound to Ramage. Washington had a couple of players in there that might have had a chance at it. Ramage, good closing rate. It's also what makes her such a good outfielder.
Saw the
Down low to
speed there
Pesha,
as well.
Pesha fouled.
Again, just a good defensive play as we just talked about from Ramage, and now Metamora will stick with it here on the inbounds pass. But again, since we haven't had that many fouls, really unlikely, I would say, that we get to the point where we go to the bonus for either of these teams down the stretch.
Just 4 fouls in the second half, and no one on the floor in foul trouble with the exception of Washington's Carly Vaughn, who has 3 fouls against 3 points. Lucy Wilson on the bench for Washington with 4. Russell a step in. Now Marshall nearly lost it. Goes back to Katie Lalamandir and Pesha. Metamora offense in no hurry here. Not all that strong of a sense of urgency, up by 3. Marshall guarded by Kimmler. Fouled, and she'll go to the line for free throws.
Well, I want to shout out Katie Lalamandir there for Metamora. She's only got 2 points tonight, Joy, but as a point guard, she's been playing extremely well, has the vision to find her teammates down low in the post, and just an excellent heads-up awareness play there from Lalamandir.
Sends Marshall to the line for free throws, leaves the first a little short. We do have a score update from Peoria High School in the Morton-Richwoods game, by the way. Fourth quarter, not quite sure how much time is left, but Morton is ahead 33-28 over Richwoods. Off the mark on the second free throw for Marshall, and we'll keep you abreast of any updates we get from the Lions' Den. McDougal down low gets fouled.
She's been good from the line throughout the course of the year, and now we'll get to see her do the same potentially here. But again, a 3-point game, Joey, down the stretch, and I believe we're going to get our mask timeout, as they call it here. More like a media timeout, but nonetheless, we'll get a break in the action.
Send us to break, why don't you?
You can do it. You got it, Joey. Don't worry.
I appreciate
You're the pro
that.
here.
Well, great game here in Metamora. We'll take a quick break for a word from Upturn.
If you think you'll never find the car or truck you really want, think again. We'll find it so you can drive it at every Uptrain Auto Group dealer. And this month, your tax refund is your down payment. It's easy to find it and drive it at every Uptrain Auto Group dealer.
Welcome back to Metamora. 42-38, 3:54 left in the fourth quarter. Tonight's coverage brought to you by Jake Weston State Farm in Washington, Illinois. For all of your insurance needs, give Jake a call at 309-444-4441 or visit JakeWestonInsurance.com. And by Kep's Sports Bar and Grill in Washington. Great atmosphere, superb food, a family-oriented establishment, 313 Muller Road in Washington, or call the number on your screen. It is technically a neutral site game, semifinal round of the regional playoffs, but it is a home game for Metamora. We're in the Bird's Nest tonight, the Tepke Gym. And you see a lot of posters on the wall for Metamora girls basketball, cheerleaders as well. The boys basketball team also represented with senior portraits on the wall, and a great crowd has turned out tonight to watch the host Redbirds try and take down the hated rival Washington Panthers. Washington at the line trying to cut into a 3-point deficit. Claire McDougal, Bradley commit, missed the first.
Yeah, well, you mentioned Tepke Gymnasium, Joey. One of the smaller gyms in the conference. Of course, you've got Pekin on the other hand, the Dottie Hawkins Gymnasium, one of our favorites to go to, but still a very intense and intimate atmosphere here at the Tepke Gymnasium in Metamora.
Great place to watch a game. Pesha for Katie Lalamandir. Lalamandir hauls in the pass. Quick word. Clutch Sports Media and ESPN Peoria back out here tomorrow evening for Metamora and Morton in a boys basketball showdown. 7 o'clock tip, and you can listen to that live on 101.1 FM ESPN Peoria. That'll be a good one in the MIC. 1 versus 3. Lalamandir passes up the 3, just north of 3 minutes left. Matt, a big possession here. If Metamora can go up by more than one score, it might change the feeling of this one just a little bit.
It could definitely. I think, like I mentioned, though, 5 points is the largest lead that either team has had throughout the course of this game. Certainly taking their time here, though, Joey.
Not a lot of urgency here for the Redbirds. Alyssa Russell finding Katie Ramage and Katie Lalamandir. And now back to Marshall. Wilson hits the court for Washington. She's back in for the Panthers with 4 fouls. 3 fouls for Carly Vaughn, who guards Russell here. Marshall drives and travels. And the Panthers force a huge turnover.
Well, that's exactly what they needed. There was a lot of time that ticked off the clock there, Joey, and that could potentially be a game-altering possession. We'll see.
And Claire McDougall will start the possession for Washington. 2:20 to play, and Matt, the question, what's Coach Harrington do? Does he look for the 3 here? Does he pound it inside? They were looking inside for McDougall, and a jump ball will likely be called. No, timeout called by Metamora first.
That's a very smart move there by the Redbirds, and you could see some of the Washington players wanting to travel there, but very smart decision there by the Redbirds. 2:12 to go, and up by 3. Boy, this has been a fun one.
It's been a great one, and maybe I've got to work on my pacing a little, because it seems like every time I ask you a question, we immediately find out the answer or see what they were trying to do. Metamora's interior defense has been strong tonight, though, Matt. You know, Claire McDougall, Division I caliber player, 12 points. She's won some battles, but, you know, they've made it difficult. They've made Washington slow it down along the perimeter some, and we've seen some costly turnovers, some bad passes, you know, where maybe 2 players just weren't on the same page. Seen that a couple times.
Yeah, we have, and I think it seems like they've cleaned that up a little bit here in this 4th quarter. We're seeing them more of a cohesive bond here in this 4th quarter, but nonetheless, this is going to be a fun finish, and a lot of players in double figures, as we alluded to at the start of the 4th quarter. And man, this is the place to be right now if you're a fan of high school basketball. ClutchSportsIL.com, and of course Clutch Sports Media on YouTube as well.
If they aren't already, tell your family, friends, whoever to tune in. Good crowd with us tonight. Good crowd with us here in the Tepke Gym as well. Metamora will inbound. 2:12 to play in the 4th quarter, and a quick reset as Metamora starts the possession. Washington has not used any of its 5 timeouts. Metamora has just 2 left. McDougall forces it loose, picks it up, throws it up, and scores. A 1-point game again.
Great patience there by Claire McDougall, doing just enough to get that up, and well done.
What does Metamora do? They've seen their lead whittled to just a point. They've answered the call so often tonight. Here's Pesha. Georgia Duncan makes it difficult. Luckily for Pesha, Katie Ramage was right behind her. Ramage guarded by Duncan. Now McGinnis picks up Russell. Russell with the handoff to Pesha. McDougall nearly got in there. We're under 90 seconds left to play in regulation. Ramage slows it down. Duncan guards. Ramage to the corner, and Russell. Russell fouled by Maddie McGinnis. And that will be the 2nd foul on McGinnis. Metamora 2 fouls shy of going to the free throw line in the bonus, and they'll get it in quickly. Pesha back to Lalamandir. Lalamandir drives and draws contact down low. And now we're 1 foul shy of the 1-and-1 bonus.
Well, I thought maybe they were going to call a reach-in foul there on Lucy Wilson. That would have been her 5th. Instead, they get the foul. Actually, not quite sure who that was on. Actually, it was Duncan, I believe, that picked up the foul for Metamora. I'm sorry, that was Vaughn, if I'm not mistaken.
Vaughn now playing with 3 fouls. Inbounded to Pesha. Pesha nearly lost it, but a foul called. And we'll see who they call that on. I want to say...
I think that's going to be on Wilson. That's her 5th.
And that's why you wait for the signal, because Georgia Duncan was right in there as well. That'll force Addie Kibler back in. And Lucy Wilson, after playing much of the game with 4 fouls, has fouled out. Wilson, a senior, playing in what could be her final high school game. We'll have to wait and see if her teammates can step up down the stretch. McDougall starts it with a rebound, flips it back to Vaughn. Vaughn in trouble, guarded by Ramage. Now it's Kimler. Kimler back to Vaughn. 50 seconds left. McGinnis to Duncan. Duncan tries to drive. sets up her position and misses down low. Rebound brought in by Metamora and Lalamandir. Lalamandir in trouble and is fouled by Kimler.
Oh man, what a sequence that was right there. Looked like Washington was maybe gonna get back in front there for a moment. And now we come back down to the other end, and here you go, 1-1 for Metamora. Chance to extend the lead here to potentially 3.
Katie Lalamandir at the stripe. First on the way, off the mark. Rebound brought in by McDougal. Swims through traffic. McDougal tries to take it herself. She's in trouble, and she's fouled.
Well, what a sequence there from Claire McDougal. Went behind the back there to advance the ball up the court and draws the foul. Now we're going to get a timeout here from the Washington Panthers, and I believe this is their first one of the game, as you alluded to earlier. Got a lot of timeouts down the stretch here.
Washington has 4 left, and Metamora has 2 left. And 2 timeouts in 31 seconds. I mean, Metamora's got plenty of time to control the clock here, but Washington can really play with things. We may see later, the clock does not stop on a made basket at this point in the game. You figure on a make, you've got at least 5 seconds are going to run off the clock, plus the time it takes to get the inbounder the ball. So Washington, if they have to play from further behind than a point on a made basket, that could be big late.
Well, and this is one of those situations, too, where when you don't have a shot clock, it can really change the course of the game down the stretch here. So, again, just the 3 fouls for Metamora in this half, 8 for Washington. Things have certainly picked up quite a bit since we mentioned that there weren't many fouls in the second half.
You said we might not even hit the bonus
when
we got to that
and I was
point.
wrong. So there's your good old announcer jinx right there.
Well, but important for Washington that they did get to that point, because now they don't have to waste any time trying to get to the bonus. They can force free throws immediately.
Certainly an important aspect down the stretch. 31 seconds here, Joey. This is going to be a fun finish. Buckle up.
Winner advances to the regional title game on Thursday to play Peoria Notre Dame. Inbounded to McDougal. She keeps it in bounds. Under 30 seconds left in regulation. Carly Vaughn, guarded by Katie Ramage. Ramage, Metamora's leading scorer. Vaughn in trouble. Timeout, Washington.
I like the call there by Kim Barth, the head coach of the Washington Panthers. Slow it down a little bit, talk things over. But, I mean, the intensity, this is as good as it's going to get.
And, Matt, what are the odds that Washington holds on to this thing and looks for the final shot?
I think that's the way to go, honestly. You don't really want to give Metamora another possession in this game based on the way that they've shot the ball here so far tonight. And I think that's what they're going to do, try and draw something up here. But, I mean, this is what it comes down to. This is where legends are made, and big opportunity here. 2 rivals, 2 teams that don't like each other very much. Playoff basketball. Doesn't get any better than this, I'd say.
And the emotions of the Metamora huddle. Natural that Washington being down, we talk so much about offense. We're an offensive-driven society. We like scoring, but Metamora can end this thing with just a couple defensive stands. Kyle Wyanoff in his first year as the Metamora head coach, what's he drawing up right now?
I think you've just got to find a way to get on McDougal and Duncan. I think those are the 2 players that Washington is going to look to get the ball to here down the stretch. And looks like McDougal will have the inbounds pass here for Washington. So fans are getting on their feet, though. This is what it's going to come down to, Joey.
Here we go, 17 seconds left. Metamora has some fouls if they want to use them. It's McDougal for Washington. 10 seconds left. McDougal puts one up. No. Duncan the rebound. Draws contact and a foul.
Wow. 4.9 to go, Joey. And now these are going to be the 2 biggest free throws that Georgia Duncan has had to make in her high school career right here. Could tie or take the lead potentially. Man, what a big opportunity. And, of course, we're going to get a timeout because why wouldn't we with 4.9 seconds to go?
Kyle Wyanoff saved 2 timeouts. He'll use one of them here. 4 9/10 of a second left, and you see that Washington huddle. It's Valentine's Day. You see so many hearts. Georgia Duncan's heart rate must be through the roof right now.
Can't even imagine what it's at. But, you know, she's, again, over the course of her career has found a way to play in the big moments. And this certainly is another one added to that list right here with these 2 free throws coming up for Washington. Again, winner advances to play Peoria Notre Dame in the regional final Thursday night right here on Clutch Sports Media. And that's going to be a fun one no matter what happens. If it's Metamora, if it's Washington, we'll find out. These free throws are going to be a key factor in who wins this one, Joey.
To say the least. Georgia Duncan out of the huddle. Could tie it with a make. Could give Washington the lead with 2 conversions. She's one of 2 seniors on the Washington roster, the only one who can play anymore tonight. Lucy Wilson fouled out earlier. First one, no good.
You see her teammates coming to her aid saying, hey, you got this. Let's focus and get this next one.
Here we go. On the way and in. Tie game. 42-all. Lala Mandir for Metamora gets the advancement, and the Redbirds call timeout.
Smart heads-up play there from Lala Mandir, using all those timeouts here really in the last handful of minutes, and it's going to come down to 1 shot here for Metamora, and if they miss, we'll head to overtime.
What a ball game this has been. A note on Katie Lala Mandir. Metamora fans may remember last year, the triple overtime game against Dunlap. She hit a 3 that extended that game into one of its 3 overtimes. Clutch player. We'll see if maybe that's who they target. You've also got your leading scorer right now, and Katie Ramage has 12 points, 10 points, and a couple of big threes from Alyssa Russell, and 8 points from Kayla Pasha.
If we do go into overtime, though, Joey, Lala Mandir does have 4 fouls, so something to keep an eye on for Metamora. But, of course, things can change here very rapidly. And look out, we got another timeout.
And that's why you hold on to him. Kim Barth and the Panthers able to ice the Redbirds. Metamora was ready to inbound it, and Washington says not quite yet.
Well, yeah, now at this point, again, just coming down to that 1 shot. We'll see who they decide to go to. There's a lot of good options that you could go to on the floor. Of course, Katie Ramage has 12 points right now. That's the most of anyone on the floor. And so that could certainly be who they decide to target here. Really, any of these players from Metamora could be capable of potentially hitting the game winner here. We'll see what they decide to go to. Looks like Ramage going to get ready to go here, and it will be Russell on the inbounds pass for Metamora.
Russell to set this up. 2 seconds left. Inbounded and tipped. Ramage stepping back, and she leaves it short. We're going to overtime.
Well, like we said, Joey, we thought this game was going to come down to the final possession, but it did. We're going to go into an overtime, of course, but wow, what an exciting finish this is brewing up to be. Why wouldn't we go to overtime in a playoff game like this? What a game this has been. And again, mentioned that 4th foul for Lala Mandir. Certainly we'll have to keep an eye on that for Metamora in this 4-minute overtime frame.
How about a little free real estate for our sponsors? Jake Weston State Farm in Washington, Illinois. Call 309-444-4441 or visit JakeWestonInsurance.com. And if you're a little hungry after this one, I know we might be. Kep Sports Bar and Grill in Washington, maybe the place to visit. 313 Muller Road in Washington. Great atmosphere, superb food, a family-oriented establishment. Matt, it's a little corny. I can't think of anything to say, but it's Valentine's Day, and how can you not love this? This has been a terrific game. It was a 1-point game at the half, and that margin even slimmer here as we approach overtime. All knotted up at 42.
It's been an amazing game to call, Joey. Such a great atmosphere here at the Tepke Gymnasium. And again, these 2 teams earlier this season just had that 1-point win for Washington, and really a 18-point win the other game for the Panthers as well. Maybe a little bit of an anomaly potentially when you look at the games that these 2 teams have had against each other this year, and it's going to be a fun finish here in Metamora.
Here we go. Tip-off won by the Redbirds. And a quick note, Matt, we actually saw less scoring in the second half than we did in the first by 1 point. We've seen some offense, but we've also seen these defenses dig in. Brooklyn Marshall has it for Metamora. And Pesha, guarded by McDougal. See who strikes first in overtime. Metamora trying to defend home turf. Washington looking for a big road win, and Kayla Pesha gets the bird's nest chirping. She has 10 points tonight.
I've seen her do that so many times down low in the post just like that, and another job well done.
Claire McDougal, big response for the Panthers. Knotted up at 44, and McDougal up to 14 points against just one foul. Contrast that to these two teams meeting last week where she didn't play much of the game, ran into foul trouble early.
I believe that's 16 now, Joey, for McDougal. Impressive numbers for her.
Having a big night. Here's Marshall for the Redbirds. Hand off to Pesha, and Pesha scores, and she'll get one more at the line.
Just like we saw on the previous basket from Metamora, Kayla Pesha finding a way to get to the basket. Claire McDougal, though, picking up the foul for Washington there, and a big free throw coming up.
In for Pesha. She's now Metamora's leading scorer, 13 points for Pesha, the senior, and McDougal slows the Washington offense down. Marshall again draws the assignment. Pass flipped over to Carly Vaughn. Vaughn finds Georgia Duncan. Hit the free throw to send us to the fifth period. Deep two. Kimler couldn't connect. Ramage the rebound, and she'll run. Ramage finds Pesha. Pesha finds the twine.
Need a timeout here, Joey, and that's exactly what we're going to get. And all Metamora right now back up to a 5-point lead.
49-44, 2:26 to play. Both teams get that extra timeout in the overtime period. Washington still has 2 to burn. Metamora will have 1. And the Redbirds up by 5. They're loving it. There you see the Metamora huddle. A little less stress-free when you're up by 5. Still not out of the woods yet by any means.
The thing that's impressed me the most in this overtime, Joey, is just the speed at which Metamora moves the ball, especially on the fast break, and you saw it right there. Good job by them to continue to push the pace of this game and put Washington on the edge a little bit here. Still 2:26 to go in this overtime period, but again, 5-point lead. This is tied for the biggest lead that we've seen tonight. It has not been more than a 2-possession game at all throughout the course of this game between these two rivals in the Mid-Illini Conference.
I asked you earlier and then was cut off by a 3, but do you buy into the adage, tough to beat a team 3 times?
You know, I think it's a tough one. I know Larry Larson, our producer for tonight, always says that. I don't know, when it's a playoff game like this, I think you throw everything out the window, it doesn't matter.
I'm inclined to agree with that line of thinking. See how it plays out here. Vaughn wants a 3 for Washington. Kimler has the rebound, and she'll try to get a 3 the old-fashioned way.
Boy, that was a big foul there in favor of Washington, obviously against Metamora. Now Kimler has a chance to complete the 3-point play. Looks like we're going to get Vanderstraff back in here for Metamora.
Vanderstraff in and Katie Lalamadeer out.
That's
and
right,
that
she
is
fouled
5
out.
fouls.
Mentioned that at the end of the fourth quarter, and so Lalamadeer out of the game now with 5 fouls for the Redbirds.
Addie Kimler at the line, trying to complete the 3-point play. Wide left, and Vanderstraff, freshly back into the game, finds Russell. And back to Vanderstraff. 2 minutes left. Ramage drives on Duncan, and a jump ball called.
Wow. I'm surprised they called that. I didn't really see one there, Joey. I don't know about you, but boy, that's a break for Washington, certainly.
Well, I saw, jump ball, the call favors Washington. I saw some maybe jostling for a travel, is what it initially appeared that would be. McDougal goes back to Vaughn for 3, and she just misses it short, out of bounds, and it'll stay with Washington.
I like the idea, though, by Vaughn there on that 3-point attempt. Now she'll inbound here. 1:43 to go. We'll see if they decide to hold it a little bit maybe or push right away.
McGinnis in trouble, guarded by Vanderstraff. Maddie McGinnis, versus Izzy Vandeschraff. And now McDougal picks it up, tries to drive the baseline. Nice move from McDougal. 1 point game.
McDougal's been doing that all night, finding a way to get clutch baskets like that. Up to 18 points now. She leads anybody in this game.
Metamora now with 1:10. Now down to the corner and Marshall. Washington found itself trailing by 1 late in the fourth quarter. They were able to force overtime. McGinnis swats it out of bounds, and she touched it last. Russell again will inbound for Metamora.
Great job, though, defensively by Maddie McGinnis, slowing things down a little bit, maybe getting a breather. And now it looks like we're going to get a timeout here by head coach Kim Barth of the Washington Panthers with 1:01 to go in this overtime period. And boy, by the way things have been going tonight, we could very well end up in the second overtime if things go that route.
Best we've done as a team in Metamora is 3 overtimes. Metamora
right.
Dunlap last season. See if we're in store for anything like that tonight. I think you could already call it an instant classic. I don't think we need to hit a second or third to get to that point. Matt, this is the point in the game where you're tired, right? Maybe not physically. It's the end of the season. You're in the best shape you've been in all year from the conditioning standpoint, but emotionally, it's a great crowd here. A lot of attention on this one. You've got the emotions. If you're a senior, this could be your final game. Metamora is a little more senior heavy than Washington, but Georgia Duncan has that on her mind for the Panthers. You're physically and emotionally drained right now.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays out down the stretch. But both teams running low on fuel here.
It's a senior in Marshall going back to another senior in Alyssa Russell. Ramage, a junior, has some more in her career, but doesn't want to lose this one, wants to move on to the regional final. Here's Russell. 35 seconds left. McDougal the steal. 1-on-1. McDougal has a step and scores. Washington leads. Metamora now finds itself trailing. 20 seconds left. Pesha to Ramage. Timeout Metamora.
Good call there by head coach Kyle Wyeth to get that timeout for the Redbirds. 18.2 seconds. That's still a lot of time, but again, we're very similar to the situation we saw before with about 17 seconds left, I believe, at the end of the fourth quarter. And now we'll see if they decide to hold it here for the final possession, which I think that's what they will decide to do. But again, a lot of time here, 18.2 seconds to go. We could ultimately end up seeing a potential timeout here down the stretch as well from head coach Kim Barth. Washington still with one timeout remaining. This is the last one for Metamora, but my goodness, just insane how quickly this game can change on one basket. We saw it right there from Washington on the good finish there from McDougal.
You're looking into the Washington huddle. Washington now trying to draw up a stop. They were in the opposite situation at the end of the fourth quarter where they were trailing by 1. The big difference here, Matt, is Washington had plenty of timeouts left in its arsenal at the end of the fourth quarter. Metamora does not. You don't have that insurance policy, and Metamora still has a couple of fouls to give too if they want to get into the bonus.
Yeah, that's going to be potentially something to keep an eye on here with 18.2 seconds, but now maybe you try and drive to the basket, draw a foul like we saw at the end of the fourth quarter. We'll see what they decide to do.
Vandeschraff inbounds to Russell. Here's Ramage. Down low to Brooklyn Marshall. Kicks it back out to Izzy Vandeschraff. She drives, looks for Pesha. Pesha nearly lost it. Pesha looking for Marshall. Marshall can't catch up to it. It's out of bounds, and Washington will take over.
Boy, that is just an unfortunate miscommunication there for Washington down the stretch.
They get it in. Metamora's got a foul. They can't, and Washington moves on. Washington will play Peoria Notre Dame for a regional title on Thursday. It ends with a snap of the fingers. The Panthers take the lead late and win it 50-49 your final.
Well, what a finish here in Metamora, Joey. And boy, that game just back and forth all night long. And again, it just comes down to that little miscue at the end from Metamora. just a mental mistake, and things like that happen, unfortunately, especially in big games like this, and that's how it ends. Just a tough sequence there for the Redbirds, who will lose to Washington for the third time this season, and for the second time this season by just 1 point. What a heartbreaker for the Redbirds here on their home floor, but Washington moving on to the regional final again, where they'll take on the Peoria Notre Dame Irish on Thursday night. That is going to be a great game. But wow, what a finish we had here tonight, Joey.
That was everything you could ask for in a regional semifinal contest we saw tonight. And that is why so many people were on the fence about this being a first-round game, because, you know, you hate to get that out of the way right off the jump. Washington and Metamora both, had they not played each other tonight, you know, could have been looking at deep runs. Unfortunately, one has to see those ambitions come to an end tonight, and it's Metamora. But you've got to give credit to the Panthers, Matt. Sticking with it, down a point late in the fourth quarter, got over that hurdle. They were down 5 early in overtime, got over that, and it almost ended abruptly. You know, Brooklyn Marshall couldn't catch up with that pass down low. Good effort to try and get back to it, but essentially all Washington had to do at that point was inbound. Even if Metamora had been able to foul quickly, it would have taken them a couple fouls to put Washington at the stripe, and they didn't have any timeouts left.
Yeah, certainly, and I think that was one of the things we talked about earlier with the low amount of fouls that were called in this one, and like you said, even if they did foul, I don't think it would have played any impact on the final score. And again, that's how it ends. 50-49 win for the Washington Panthers. But I mean, again, this is two rivals. This is peak Mid-Illini basketball, I would say, right here. And what a way to finish it out tonight with a 1-point win for Washington, as they'll take on Peoria Notre Dame on Thursday night in the regional final. Going to be a great one. And of course, you can find it right here on Clutch Sports Media.
Great thing about that one is we don't have to work very hard to promote it, right? We saw Peoria Notre Dame look very sharp against Dunlap earlier this evening, and a couple hours later, it's Washington putting the finishing touches on a 1-point win over Metamora in overtime. Two very different games, but two very talented squads. And again, Larry Larson, our producer, again, echoes that statement. Shouldn't have been a semifinal, and it should have been a sectional title game the way these teams play tonight. But looking ahead to Thursday real quick, Matt, Peoria Notre Dame, number 2 seed in this subsectional. Maya Wardle, gotten a lot of name recognition. There was a story about her in the Peoria Journal-Star today. Dave Aminian wrote that. You know, she's got a couple college offers. She's a sophomore, but that's a deep PND team. They play as a unit. They've got a couple of players that can jump out and get you, and anytime you get that Big 12 Mid-Illini Conference matchup in the playoffs, it's fun to look at. That'll be a big one on ClutchSportsIL.com on Thursday. Yeah, certainly. And I think one of the things that Jonathan Michael was talking about earlier was the bench for PND, and that's one of the things that we've seen come to life. And other teams lately, like the Bradley men's basketball team, the bench has been really good. And when you have a good bench like that, you can go a long way. And so I liked that Jonathan Michael brought that up about PND. Yes, they have the talent like Maya Wardle, who was so fun to watch earlier this evening. But, again, it comes down to a team effort. And if they play like they did tonight against Dunlap, I think they've got a good chance to advance further in the playoffs. But, again, very good Washington team they're going up against. And Washington's going to have to use that depth that they have to their advantage. Just saw Maddie McGinnis with a nice performance off the bench. A deep Washington team, and they're going to run into just the same squad in PND. That's Thursday on ClutchSportsIL.com. Tomorrow on ESPN Peoria. Keep an eye out for, or keep an ear out, I should say. It's the radio after all. Keep an ear out for Metamora and Morton. Big one right here in this gym on the boys' side of the Mid-Illini Conference. They're still working through the final couple of games of the regular season. 7 o'clock tip-off. Larry Larson has the call of that one. And Matt, before we start to ramble on, let's end this thing. A 50-49 win for Washington over Metamora, an overtime thriller on Valentine's Day. Washington versus PND, set up and ready to go on Thursday. For our entire crew, Jonathan Michael behind our camera, Larry Larson behind our computer, and Josh Schwam clipping plays for our social media accounts in our Peoria studio. My partner Matt Harrington as well. I'm Joey Wright. Thanks for being with us on Valentine's Day. It was a great one between Washington and Metamora. Thanks for watching, and join us on Thursday.